I live in South Oceanside with my wife and two kids, and one of them's 2 months. So you can imagine being a designer in the industry for the last 12 years, how that can really impact what you're doing. Let's see, I don't know if anybody knows of Stance. How many here know of the company Stance? Okay, cool. Well, those that don't, we're a sock company. The founders found a kind of hole in the market and decided to build a company based on that, in which basically everybody that they asked on what socks they purchased were just, they go to Walmart and they'd buy a black pair of socks, a white pair of socks, gray pair of socks. There wasn't really anybody like capitalizing on that or making a name for themselves. So they kind of took the Nike approach with the shoes and they kind of replicated it with socks. I figured I'd give this talk about where I am right now in my career and talk a little bit about how I got there, my learnings, how I failed a few times, and then just kind of go back to what I might be doing later. So I brought some socks to give away at the end for people to ask questions. So there's a lot of socks, so it might be a lot of questions, which really makes me nervous. So I work at Stance. I put the careers link down there because not that we're hiring out. I'm not trying to recruit anybody here, but on that page is a really good video about Stance and the culture there, and I had no idea that that type of culture existed in Southern California. When you get a chance, go check it out. They're a big component of work-life balance, which was huge for me, having two kids now, and the ability to actually step outside, go run, go surf while I'm working, go home, check on the fam, and do all these things to get inspired. I'm a UX and design manager at Stance, so I deal with everything that goes up online digitally. And I started last August, and it's been an incredible experience. So when I first got there, let's see, they told me, they said, okay, you're on, let's go, hit the ground running, and you got 3 campaigns you need to launch. 3 of those were MBA. We're getting into the performance market, so we're supplying the MBA with a whole bunch of socks. And they're all the professional athletes for the NBA, we're going to wear them on court. We're doing a new product category, underwear, and then also Star Wars. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of that around on the internet. A really good designer friend of mine, also Josh Ariza, designed all those socks. So when they asked me to do these 3 different campaigns in 3 months, I was like, oh wow, that's kind of a lot, right? I got on there and they said, okay, you're gonna, you gotta hire another team member under you to help you with this, but there was no time. In Southern California, everybody's kind of eaten up by the Bay Area or other companies, so it becomes a long stretch of hiring processes to try to recruit people. So I kind of just assessed what I needed to do. The current website, didn't allow for a really proper path for the consumer to convert and to tell a really good visual storytelling of the product. There's a lot of different stories being told and to entice the consumer to purchase. And so what I decided to do within this 3-month time, and we're going into holiday, and if you understand about any type of product company that deals with soft goods, holiday is intense. We drop every season, so we do our drops, and drops are basically at the retail stores, wholesale stores, all of our products. So online, this e-com site was the 3rd year that it was old, so what we do online is we rotate all the different banner assets and everything else. So there's this extreme amount of work that goes into every season, and holiday is about 75% of our revenue. So, we had a lot of different work to be done. So leading into that and understanding that, I had to quickly jump into the role of tracking down all the different members of Stance to collaborate interdepartmental to see how these different campaigns were being communicated and to visually communicate that online. Within each campaign, you have representation on stance.com, email campaigns, external marketing ads, social media, stuff like that. So each one of these it was pretty hefty feat, but I did it. It's interesting. I had to work with a lot of photographers to do all that. And in order to explain how it was possible, I basically have to just kind of dive into my past a little bit. I grew up with a family with an engineer. My dad was an electrical engineer, so he did circuit board repair and for computers and electronics. So I was always around computers. He got me my first computer when I was about 10. I had Photoshop 2. That's a long time, I've been looking at Photoshop. I went to a traditional graphic design school, Cal State Fullerton, so I didn't know whether I wanted to do art. My dad told me that artists don't make money and learn a trade, so I quickly realized that graphic design was a route that you can go to make money. But it wasn't about money for me. I just enjoyed the passion of creating and understanding the craft. And I guess his point was to choose something that's a trade. So early on, this is like a little glimpse of it. I kind of went through school for 7 years. So I graduated high school in '98. So in college, I had, the iMac, the Emacs with the green backs, and we had zip drives that only held like 100 megs, and those files are pretty. Files that you can acquire are pretty large. So I got a job working at an agency early on in 2004, and I learned 2 things that were very beneficial to my career, which was how to emulate. And emulate, I don't mean copying. Like copying, you basically take something, you just replicate it, right? Well, emulation is kind of a representation of that. So it's like you take the idea of something and the core foundations and principles of it, and then you translate it. So it's almost like taking a style guide and doing that. So I learned how to do that really early on with this creative director, is also innovating pulling from different industries and translating that into a new one. Anything like a website or anything that you see design-wise. I did lots of production throughout my whole career. Graduated from graphic design in 2006. After that, I had a degree in illustration too, and I didn't know whether I wanted to do illustration, so I went and worked at a stationery illustration company. That was pretty bad. This whole picture, what I presented here was basically what I've learned, but there's an underlying thing in the first 7 years of my career that was kind of like one thing after another that led up to where I'm at now, and a lot of hardship. Like I struggled like my first 7 years of my career, like hardcore. I mean, in 2006, 2007, I was at a small agency. I learned web for the first time. They laid me off 2 weeks before my wedding. All right, gnarly, right? And then I quickly got a job at newegg.com on my dinner rehearsal. So I took the call and I said, okay, yeah. And I think one of the things is like my wife was so good to me, and she always like motivated me and said, hey, dude, you can do it, And it's just understanding those key people in your life to keep you up. Which really has kept me going. So Newegg, I learned there that you can always leave a job or get laid off. I got laid off again. And then I started freelancing. I thought that was pretty rad. There was a lot of cool people doing it, but I had no network, and so that meant no business. I didn't even understand what networking was, you know. So I joined a startup, and we did like a social networking platform, and like didn't really know what I was doing, but I was learning on the go. I kept learning. I sat right next to a front-end developer, so I learned a lot of front-end development. Again, lots of production. Production is like a really big theme. That was 2008. We all know what happened in 2008. Startups basically didn't get any money. Things kind of went bad. So I was out of a job again. And so I took the developer, my wife, and my wife's also a designer, and we started our own company. And we did that for a year. At that point, I had built up a network that was decent to supply new business for a year. And I didn't sell any more the next year. And so I didn't realize that you had to keep doing that. And that's a full-time job. I was decent at it, but I wasn't good. I was good at executing. I was always a good executor. So I contracted a job in Long Beach, started learning UX, and then my last job I started learning large websites and replatforming in UX. And then I got a job at Oakley. Now Oakley for me was basically the start of my career. This is a place where I worked for 4 years and really kind of took all these bits and pieces and kind of started to bring it all together, put it all together, understanding the fundamentals of like building a website, but not only that, like just building e-com sites. So I worked with a lot of great designers there. I mean, they've gone and done amazing things at amazing other, really big companies, and I love that team. I miss it because I really miss the development aspect of it. So there, I was able to learn. The biggest thing was I was able to learn front end and a little bit back end development, and what that did to my understanding of building a website. Kind of really like transcend it to where I can make more educated decisions based on what I'm building. And so, and the exercise I got at Stance of building all these sites in a short amount of time, like how was I going to do it? Well, I would just get scrappy and do what I know. Create a bunch of modules and have those modules supply and fuel the next websites that we need to build. I built iOS app. Here's a few different things that went on there. We did a redesign of Oakley.com. I did a Surf Report app. A whole bunch of different like landing pages for explaining technology, product releases, blogs, what have you. So it kind of ran the gamut, and so just taking all that knowledge and kind of learning it back and putting it back at Stance. And every single job that I've had, I've always been just trying to learn. I'm kind of a doer, so now that I'm a manager and I actually have an employee underneath me, it's kind of difficult. It's hard for me to let go. I want to keep doing, I want to keep building, I want to keep creating. But what I found is that by learning so much, I'm able to teach. And learning, it's kind of weird, learning how to teach, is a thing. And, how you communicate to your coworkers is huge. Jeremy actually said something earlier in this conference of framing that I'm actually going to really look into, because framing a conversation can actually really greatly help you in a company. And so my goal at Stance is to learn how to be a better communicator, learn how to be a better manager, and learn how to be a better leader to support the overall goal of the company. And if that means less design, that means less design. But right now I'm still designing, and I've had a great experience to start to revision and redesign Stance. And there's going to be a lot more things coming up in the future. So get ready for that. Thank you. grabs these.
All right, thanks, man. So he's got Stance swag socks to give away for anyone who asks a question. So who has a question? It has to be up to the profoundness in order to win, though.
So I'm just interested in what kind of R&D you get involved with at Stance and with like the new NBA socks. If you
Sure.
Ever got a chance to try them on, run around for a while, get a little sweaty. And
Well, I got a pair right here.
Oh.
Do you want these ones?
Sure.
I got a bunch of different pairs. I actually don't play basketball. I can shoot hoops. I can play horse. But I haven't actually tried them on. NBA players love them. There was a 98% rate of success. And then, I'm not going to name what athlete it was, but then our team flew out there and tailored his needs to the sock. So got some R&D and flew out directly to specific athletes that didn't particularly like the sock and iterated. So yeah, there's a lot of R&D that goes involved with it. Yeah.
Right here. How was that success measured?
Which success?
You said there was a 98% of success.
Oh, they asked all the NBA players.
What did they ask?
How the quality of the sock is. Right? Did I get the question?
How did they measure that quality?
I wasn't part of the research, so I wouldn't necessarily know. Yeah, do you want to?
Hand me a few and I'll hand it
Yeah, go ahead and just ask
Okay.
him which one.
All right, here we go.
So do you ever find it challenging to just focus on socks or underwear or anything like that? Is it like ever really challenging with design?
I don't design the socks. Yeah.
No, I mean like designing for like the web pages and stuff like that.
It's interesting. Underwear is new, so it is a completely different campaign. But on the e-com site, I mean, I read it, e-com sites are e-com sites. You're basically creating a path for the consumer to purchase, and how you can do a lot. I think what Stance needs right now is a base to start from and build from. There's a lot of explorations you can do within an e-com site, and to make a more storytelling type approach where you have these landing pages that are curated, but it's not really easy to generate a lot of those pages. So socks living with underwear on the same e-com page is pretty much it's straightforward.
This sock is actually by Rihanna?
It is. That's her hosiery. So I think I'm not sure, but it might have bells on it.
Hi. About the sock design, is it your team that comes up with all designs, or is there like a notion to let the community submit designs?
Oh yeah, it's all of our teams. So we have special designers, or we have designers that we hire also outside of Stance so we'll have like artists collaborate with us. Rihanna actually designed all of her line, so she collaborated with us. Josh Ariza, like I mentioned, not only did the Star Wars socks, but he's also done a lot of other ones for us. So we have different types of collaborations.
Hi. So you mentioned working to be a better leader and manager. What advice would you give to designers who are trying to do the same thing?
Okay, that's a good one. I'm trying to figure it out myself. I guess. It's hard because as a designer, you think about all the bad managers you've had, right? I don't want to be that. I think that the benefit that I have right now is that I'm raising 2 kids. And so you kind of really humble yourself and trying to communicate to a 2-year-old is really challenging. So I'm learning that it's been the best experience for me, translating it that way. So yeah, I'm learning that actually. I think the best thing that I can do is let go and allow them the freedom to just create and be in their own space without me dictating what they need to do. There's different parts of a project that allows for different things. Like if timelines are really quick, we're going to be in and out of each other's Photoshop or sketch files. You just kind of have to set up expectations, I guess, and just be honest, transparent.
I have a question here.
Yeah.
Hi. You mentioned a little bit about having to launch 3 campaigns in a very short period of time. Can you talk about how you prioritized getting those out the door?
Yeah. Actually, it's good. I kind of ran through that presentation really quickly. So let's see. Basically, I would meet with the category directors, and a lot of that was meeting with the interdepartment team, so the different teams. For MBA specifically, I'd meet with the category director, get his needs. What are you trying to convey on the website? I'll quickly go through a wireframe on these landing pages, basically just zoning out things. I'll do it on a sketchbook, and just kind of work it out with them, and say, okay, we need a representation of all the different teams. How are we going to display that? We need, so that's the first thing, is just identifying with the key stakeholders on what their needs are. And immediately after that, before I go into any design, I'll go straight to the developer. I have a developer mind. Just doing it in the past, but I don't bypass who's doing the development, because they might have different needs or different requests to make sure I adhere to. So I go directly to the developer and I say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? I'm going to design it. Let's do it. And then I kind of start assessing what assets are available. Sometimes the brand team has campaign imagery. Sometimes they don't. And a lot of times the assets get to me last minute, like maybe a week of. So I kind of have to plan for that as I'll launch with this, but if it doesn't go out, but if I get the assets, then I'll replace it. So I kind of do a lot of front loading. I front load everything, my designs. I do a lot of work ahead of time in order to make because at the end of the day, it needs a launch. We have it launching in the retail stores. We have it launching wholesale, and then I have to launch. So yeah, a lot goes into it. Did I answer your question? They're spread out a little bit, so I was able to focus. But yeah, they were kind of at the same time. A lot of different conversations, just kind of building. If you look at them, they kind of follow the same framework. I guess if you look at, I did 3 different sites. I kind of created 3 different components out of the 3 sites, and then just kind of spread it out throughout the next year. We just launched a new Rihanna site. I used the same type components. We launched a skateboarding site. Used the same components as those. So I kind of created like a system to use while we're replatforming. We're replatforming to a new CMS, and with that we're going to be redesigning too, so we're going to be building in a lot of these pages in the future, so it's not so scrappy. But.
Early on in your career, it seemed like you had kind of a lot of bad luck getting laid off multiple times. How did you deal with kind of that, and could you speak a little bit more on dealing with being laid off and maintaining motivation?
I wanted to quit. I thought to myself, I'm just not going to be a designer anymore. What should I do? Kicking rocks, right? I think everybody goes through that at some point in their career. If you haven't, awesome. But I definitely did, and I just had to keep reminding myself why I'm doing it, and it wasn't for the paycheck. And it wasn't for, status. I mean, I didn't join Dribble until like halfway into Oakley. Like I'm barely on Twitter, so like I just enjoy creating stuff. I enjoy the craft of it, and I enjoy learning how to do it and teaching. I'm starting to learn that I'm really enjoying teaching people. And so I kind of just stepped back and just realized that I enjoy doing it. It's almost, and it just kind of fell into place,
All right, thanks, Zach. If you want more socks, go see him after.